Good morning, Scott Sloan, 700 WLW. Midweek is here. And in studio this morning is Karim. Just Karim because his last name is too damn hard to pronounce. We'll call you Smith. Karim Smith is in studio here from Cincinnati Karate. And is it true, Karim, Karate Man bruise on the inside?
I'm sorry?
Karate Man bruise on the inside?
I think so, sure.
Okay, sure. All right, so here's the thing. We have, obviously, in the news, sadly, the last few days there have been stories about mass shootings.
Right.
What happened in Aurora, what's happened elsewhere in Wisconsin. And I think, every time a shooter enters a theater, or a shooter enters in this case, a mosque, a temple, or a shooter enters a workplace, I'm thinking, even if I'm skilled as you are in hand-to-hand combat and the martial arts, I'm not sure that that's going to help me out too much if I'm faced with a guy who has a sawed-off shotgun or a Glock 9. Is that true or false?
Well, here's how I've come to understand it. The big point I think a lot of people should understand is, in the end, you honestly can't defend against crazy. And the reason why this is because crazy people do random things. If something is 100% random or completely illogical, there's really no way you can ever prepare for it. We as experts, we can give you tips that can help increase your chances of survival. But ultimately, there's really no way you can prepare for it.
I would think that if you're, I don't know, maybe you're going to your car, somebody wants to carjack you. Somebody wants to steal your purse. Somebody wants to take something from you, or I don't know, you're some area of town, and all of a sudden you're faced with a mugging, or you're assaulted like Chris Seelbach was last week. In those cases, now I'm thinking, well, you know what? This is where I stand more of a chance, I think, in defending myself.
Very much so.
Do you recommend defending yourself, or if it's property, give it up?
Me personally, I've always advocated that if they just want your wallet, give them your wallet. Because you can replace your cash, you can replace your credit cards, it's no big deal. But if they're looking to actually hurt you, then that's when you have to make a decision. And to your point, you're right. If it's one-on-one and you're close range with your attacker, up close and personal, you have many, many more options. But if you're in a condition of a school shooting or a building shooting or something similar to the mass shootings that we've had, the thing you have to realize is that there's kind of two main responses that can happen. Either one, you're more aggressive, or two, you're a bit more passive, and both of which are completely reasonable. If your natural reaction is to run and hide, fine. Run and hide, especially if you're in a position far away from the shooter. Zigzag, get out of the target area, get out of the kill zone, find some cover to hide. There's nothing wrong with that. And don't let anyone call you a coward because your instincts are kicking in to save your life. Now, if you've had some training, though, if you've had the benefit of having some training, and therefore you can be a bit more aggressive, and you're in a position to get the shooter, let's say you're on the side of him or you're behind him, then at least in that case you can get a hold of the gun and misdirect it. Because what's nice about guns is once you've misdirected the barrel and put it into a place that's less harmful, you've now drastically increased the chances of survival into your favor. And once you've disarmed the gun, you can then start hitting the attacker to try and put them down in any way or fashion. You just keep going until they're down for the count.
My friend, you may know Debbie Gardner from Survive Institute, her husband Mike, and she, my wife and daughter have trained with her, and basically it's not a martial arts thing, but rather it's just go for the throat. If they're that close, if you can. I mean, that's probably the most basic thing you do if you're faced with obviously a situation where you can't escape from.
Yeah, and I was actually listening to Debbie last night, and she also brings up some great points. And what I like about these speakers who either are on TV or on the radio is that they've had a lot of years of experience. So a lot of them may be former military, former police, work in private security, or may work in self-defense like I do. As a result, we tend to make a lot of assumptions as to what people are capable of. So the message I like to put out there is to assume that anyone can possibly do anything at any time. And if you need to run and hide, by all means go ahead. I mean, if you feel that you can sum up the courage to make a move, then by all means go ahead, especially if you have position to do so. At the same time, if you feel you have to run and hide, go right ahead. No one's going to think less of you.
Karim, it seems to me that the worst thing you can do is stay in place. That in a workplace shooting, for example, I had this video on my blog. It's still there from a couple of days ago at 700WLW.com, put together by the, I think, the Protective Services people in Houston, Texas. In that, if you're staying in your cubicle, because let's face it, when these things do happen, it's going to happen, it seems like more in an office environment or an environment along those lines. Because we hear about workplace shootings a lot. We just had one in Westchester, I think, a couple of years ago. And the end result is, they say, if you stay near your cubicle, if you hide, there's a chance you could wind up being found, and you probably want to try to make your escape first.
Exactly, for sure. And it all depends on, ultimately, it all depends on where they're shooting. Like, if you look at the shooter, if you're not in the target area and you're able to run and zigzag and get away, that's a better option. If, however, you are in the kill zone, you're already in trouble. Like, that's the thing. You already have a problem. You have to wait till they either move on or change their direction of firing, because if you get up and then you're in their field of view, you're giving them a clear target to shoot at, right? You're directing their attention right at you. So you have to play it smart, and that can be tough, especially when you've never had that experience before. And that's the thing. A lot of us, and this is good, a lot of our listeners probably have never ever been in any kind of dangerous situation ever in their life.
And probably won't be.
And probably won't be. And that's great. If you can go through your entire life never being in a fight, never being in any situation, count your blessings. You are the luckiest person alive. And that's a great thing. But as a result, because you've never had that experience, when the experience does hit you, you never really quite know how to take it, which is why I like to recommend for anyone, go ahead and take some form of self-defense. I don't care what system it is, whether it's ours or another system, I don't care. Because when you've at least done something, you've at least trained in some way or fashion, beyond the techniques you learn, you also are sort of practicing these situations of someone's coming at you, someone's throwing punches at you, someone's, being the aggressor. And when you slowly are able to practice those situations, when those situations hit you in real life, you're able to handle them much, much better, as opposed to never having handled them before.
Well, the case is this. If you are faced with a shooter, as they did in Aurora, or maybe the Temple in Wisconsin on Sunday, and somebody's shooting at you from a distance, and you have a concealed carry permit, within outside of 21 feet, that's about the range you should be using that weapon. The thing is that's one thing, but inside 21 feet, which probably the majority of assaults occur, kind of like Chris Seelbach. He's walking down the street on a Monday night, had a couple drinks, obviously, and all of a sudden some guy reaches out and punches him. Even in a state where you may be intoxicated or not expecting it, and someone's walking along and decides to sucker punch you, how much training does one need to react to that, in the sense that the training kicks in and overrides a sense of disbelief?
I'll be quite honest. Even those who have had a lot of training, if you're being sucker punched, even that's hard to defend, because once again, you're not expecting it. If I'm walking down the street minding my own business and someone just walks out of nowhere and decks me, that is going to be one hard thing to defend. Now, granted, with training, my reaction is going to be a bit better. So if I do feel that someone is just not quite right, at least my instincts can kind of kick in a little bit better. My guard come up a little better. Once again, my odds are a little bit better. They're still bad. If someone decides to do a random attack on me, my odds are already bad. But at least with training, my odds are now better. And also with training, it allows you to handle the situation better. So if I don't have training, getting hit is a big problem, because you've been hit, you've never been hit before, you don't know how to handle it. With some training, okay, I've been hit, but I've had some practice getting hit before in a safe environment from sparring or what have you, so I at least now know how to react to that hit.
Yeah, you know, take a punch, right?
Exactly.
You
know it's
a
punch, and you know to kind of shake off that shock, get your bearings, find whoever your attacker is, and now once again, now you can, feel out your options and how you want to play it. So once again, it all comes to be about odds, right? Nothing is ever guaranteed in life. There is no magic bullet. There's no magic system. There's nothing out there that will be 100% guaranteed every time. But as you practice and as you train, you at least increase your odds of either surviving or at least being able to walk away with the least amount of damage possible.
Karim's in studio from Cincinnati Karate, and well, maybe we'll get into this. Can you hang around after the break here? Because I want to ask you about, it's one thing to go get training if you work in an environment where you're in danger. I got a buddy of mine who just got his concealed carry permit because he works part-time at a parking lot in an area downtown, and he's like, hey, I got cash on me, I'm by myself, late hours, I got to protect myself. But now he's actually thinking of going, well, if someone gets on top of me, I can't use my weapon, and thinking about taking some self-defense, hand-to-hand self-defense classes. We'll talk about what you recommend, but I think on a bigger scale, too, is that school's about to start up, which means we're going to start hearing about school bullying. And I know that the martial arts not only maybe give you a way to defend yourself, but more or less a sense of confidence too,
For
to
sure.
walk into a situation and stand up for yourself. So we'll continue after the break here. 4 minutes away, we'll get a forecast and more with the guys from Cincinnati Karate this morning here, 700 WLW. I'm Scott Sloan, and Karim from Cincinnati Karate's in studio this morning on 700 WLW, talking about self-defense, and from Chris Seelbach all the way to the Sunday tragedy in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, self-defense, getting out of bad situations. How much training would it take someone basically to defend themselves? How many classes is it? It seems like you guys who practice, and we'll get into this in a second, hand-to-hand combat self-defense techniques in the mixed martial arts and martial arts, that you guys train for years and years and years to develop those skills. But if I came in off the street and said, help me out here, I'm being threatened or I have a fear, how many classes?
I'm actually really glad you asked that question, because what's nice about our system, we teach Krav Maga Malay, which is, for those who are unfamiliar, it's a self-defense system from Israel used by the military, and it's been sort of tailored for civilian use. The system is actually designed to be picked up quickly, because we understand that you may not have 5 years to get a black belt in another art until you have to wait those amount of years to get confident. Now, granted, we still take a lot of time to train, because you want to practice these techniques so they become second nature. It does take time. It takes time and practice, just like any other art. However, even after, I would say, the first 4 months, which is how long our orientation program is, just those 4 months alone, granted, you're not getting everything in our system, but you're at least getting a great base. It's a fantastic base of techniques that can handle you for a large amount of situations. Not every situation, but definitely a good amount. Common ones that you'll see that you would ever encounter. Hopefully you never have to. But common ones that you would encounter, and then you can at least handle yourself. And then as you build your confidence, as you get better and better, you get to pick up on more advanced techniques. And what's cool about our system is that as you advance into higher levels, you notice that a lot of the new techniques you learn are actually extensions of the base techniques that you learned in the first 4 months. And that's what I love about our system. It's that it has that building effect, is that once you really get that good solid base, everything after that it's much easier to pick up.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool YouTube videos on Krav Maga, and the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, use this stuff as their hand-to-hand combat, and I mean, it's pretty cool, because you're talking about people that are punching at you, or guns or knives in that close quarter situation, how to disarm them, and there's actually something there. And I know there's a lot of women listening to the show going, well, yeah, but you know what? Is it going to help me with my thighs and problem areas?
Well, I mean, in the sense of, do we have workouts
What's better,
as well?
Krav Maga or cardio or kickboxing or spinning or Pilates?
Well, it's hard to say, like, what's better, because it all depends on what you're looking for. For some people, if what you're looking for is a gym, I'll be honest, that's not what we are. We're a school. We are a school first. We are invested in teaching people techniques to defend themselves. Now, do we work out as well? Of course. We want to keep the blood pumping. We want to get people healthy. We want people to have fun and to get involved and to get energetic. But we also want people to learn. So it's both. And ultimately, that's the kind of people we're looking for.
All right, very good. Let's talk about school bullying a little bit while we got you, Karim, from Cincinnati Karate. I know I have some friends of mine whose kids were like picked on, etc., and they began a program of martial arts, and it's amazing the transformation as far as their self-confidence, self-esteem goes. And then they kind of project that and notice that, well, I've never really had to put a beat down on the schoolyard bully, but my attitude, my presence changed. Is that largely what you go for, and why does it work that way in the martial arts?
For sure, because and that's why I like to recommend for anyone, if you have a chance to take any kind of martial art, whether it's our system or not our system, it's all good. Is our system better tailored for bullying circumstances? Yes, because it's specifically designed to be a bit more practical. But that's not to take away from any other art as well. Like if you like Taekwondo or Kung Fu or any other art, by all means train those as well, because no matter what system you do, like you said, it builds that confidence. Our school philosophy is simple. We teach you to fight so that you never have to. We don't want you to end up having to use this. If you go throughout your entire life never using it, we are happy as a clam, because that means you never were in any kind of danger, and that means you've always walked home in one piece, right? You never want to get into a fight, because there's always a risk you can lose. There's always a risk you can get hurt.
Yeah.
So if you avoid the fight regardless, then you're always walking away. And ultimately, that's what we want to have happen. And so our program is actually, meant for, people over the age of 12. That's where our adult program is. And we'd love to have, teenagers come in because it's a great way for them to train, build confidence before they go to college, right? And we also have a very small child's program for 10 to 12-year-olds to get them prepared for that. Now, we're hopefully there's not much fighting going on at that age. We would hope not. But, it's a great prep for when they get into high school and things of that nature.
Because you never know, you may be in a situation where you need to defend yourself, and you don't like you guys. You're not huge 300-pound Delta Force operators here. You guys are look like normal middleweight guys, and you never think that you guys are experts in the martial arts.
And ultimately, that's what it's about. It's actually about leveling the playing field a little bit, because and some people will look at our art and say, well, isn't that fighting dirty? Isn't that fighting unfair? And my response back to that is, well, let's think about this for a second. The very essence of the term bullying means that someone who is bigger and stronger than me is picking on me. That's what bullies do. Bullies are cowards. They don't pick on people who are the same size as them. So if we're assuming that we have someone who's bigger and stronger than us, it's already an unfair fight. It's already broken into their favor. So our system is simply just taking the odds back into ours, because obviously it's already stacked if someone larger than you is trying to do damage.
Well, in my case, in the parking garage, I had two big guys come at me. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It's kind of a bullying thing, and I suppose that's why it gives you confidence. And now, have you ever heard a case where you've trained a child or a younger person because they had a problem with bullies, that they ever had to apply the science to the bully?
As of right now, we haven't experienced any of our students who have had any heavy problems with bullying. And in terms of experiences after training, we haven't actually gotten a lot of stories. We've actually gotten a couple of people who have said that were able to use some of the defenses that they've learned, never having to throw a punch, just getting themselves in a guarded position.
Go. And that's enough to scare the bully.
And that was enough to scare people away. And when we heard about those kind of stories, we were happy, because that meant that just the preparation, just the confidence that you're giving off, and just the ability to cover your bases, that alone is having a difference. We don't even have to throw a punch, and that's fantastic. Yeah,
see, that's kind of cool too. You get the workout aspect, but you're also learning something, giving you self-confidence, and there's so many things you don't get from just, I don't know, running a 5 or a 10K, or lifting weights in a gym or something like that. You're getting something that you can use, and it helps with your self-esteem and all that. And the other thing too, it seems like when you talk about martial arts, it's everybody's kids involved in this stuff, and it's like, well, if I'm an adult and I want to learn, I don't want to be training with like a bunch of 8-year-olds. That's not really going to be fair, because I'll destroy them with no training whatsoever. But you do mainly adults, though, right?
Right. We are mainly an adult program. I mean, the children program is there, but it's small. We're looking to grow it, of course. I mean, obviously, if more kids want to get involved, we're happy to take them. But we tend to find that more of these situations will happen to older teens and adults. And that's probably what's more going to happen. And since Krav Maga is a more mature art, it is better tailored for the adults, and that's why we are mainly adults and have the adult class.
Okay, gotcha. You guys are out of Blue Ash?
We are. We actually have 2 locations. We have a location in Blue Ash behind the UDF. We also have a location in Skytop Pavilion in Anderson, next to the Bigs and the BW3s, also behind Starbucks. And if you want any more information, check our website, CincinnatiKarate.com, or you can, if you want to talk to me, give me a call, 513-792-9610. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
And I'll get you linked up, too, on my Facebook wall as well. Guys, thanks for coming in today. Silent Mike here was doing a great job recording this whole thing. And Karim from Cincinnati Karate, thanks for the info. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on.
News is next, and then 9:34 this morning, I've got a charity event coming up. We'll talk to our buddy.